So, Benjamin Netanyahu. You've heard me be critical of Benjamin Netanyahu on the show for a very long time, even well before 10/7. But when 10/7 happened, and news became, apparent. There was news that Benjamin Netanyahu knew about that the attacks were coming, or the Netanyahu administration knew about the attacks that were coming in, and they did nothing about it because, in my opinion, the Netanyahu administration felt that he would be better suited responding to an already made attack than responding to a attack that was pending that you didn't know how bad it would be. So that would make him look better, and the military actions that would take place after the fact would help shield him during these trying times. Of course, I don't know if he could have known how bad it was going to be with all of the deaths and other atrocities that took place in the hands of Hamas on innocent Israeli citizens. Now, we've been critical of him, and we've been critical on even the last show on how the state of Israel and the Israeli government and Netanyahu administration have responded to Gaza and hit Gaza indiscriminately with no smart munitions, whilst we see pictures from Tehran and other Iranian locations where they struck there with precision. If you can strike with precision from a longer distance away, why can't you strike with precision in a shorter distance? Maybe it would have helped your cause, old Netanyahu, if you think that, if you want people to swarm to your side, don't start indiscriminately killing civilians whilst going after terrorists, because people are going to view you as a terrorist too. But, we've talked about, him and his trials, and we know that one of the reasons why Netanyahu would, again, want to have military actions going forward would be that it would distract the populace and the world from his, 3 trials that he's dealing with, 3 corruption trials. So, according to the Jerusalem Post, according to their website, there's an op-ed talking about earlier on about how the state of Israel would deal with his impending cross-examination, because the cross-examination was slated to take place. Let's see, this is June 3rd when the first article about that, and that the cross-examination of Benjamin Netanyahu in one of his 3 corruption trials, that is the day that the cross-examinations were supposed to happen, right? And then, what happened? 7 days later, I think it was on the 10th, June 10th, I don't know how many days worth of cross-examination there was, but they were not finished their cross-examination. And after the 10th of June, guess what happened? Netanyahu said, "I'm too sick. I cannot be cross-examined because I'm too sick." Really? I understand if you're really sick, but Netanyahu wasn't too sick to go starting a war with Iran. And look, I'm not sitting here and saying that Iran shouldn't be hit. I'm not sitting here saying that Iran isn't a problem. Although, apparently, Benjamin Netanyahu was saying that nuclear weapons were going to be coming in days if he didn't act. And now it's more like months, if not a year. So Benjamin Netanyahu took the information that he had and he embellished it a good bit to make people think that these attacks were necessary now, when they probably could have waited in the grand scheme of things as it pertains to Iran. But as it pertains to him and his legal woes, no, the attacks on Iran couldn't wait, because he needed to, as they say, wag the dog. He needed to distract the population from his corruption trials with military actions. Of course, now that means that he's putting his own people at risk, because Iran is bombing back. People have had to evacuate. He's putting the lives of the Israeli people at risk by conducting a war that he now says was not necessary to be done immediately, just to give him political cover during his criminal trials. Maybe he takes, advice from Trump, or maybe Trump is following his lead. I don't know. But these are all deplorable actions of deplorable conservatives. We have deplorable conservatives here in the United States. We have deplorable conservatives over there in Israel running that country too. So, I don't know. Have any of y'all heard this? Because I've been trying to keep up with Netanyahu, but the only sites that I've found this on were Israeli sites. Have you seen this on MSNBC? Have you seen this on CNN? Have you seen this on any of the other major news networks to talk about the fact that, he had to tell the courts that he was sick? Have you heard anything about his corruption trials going on and how, maybe somehow a responsible media might sit there and say, well, maybe there's some, relevant things to discuss if he's trying to, wag the dog. In the movie Wag the Dog, I forget exactly who they supposedly declared a war on. I think it was a fake war in that movie, but they were distracting from, I think, an affair by, faking a war. In this case, it's not a faked war. It's a real combat situation that he's using not to cover up an affair, but to cover up political corruption. Big Hook says Netanyahu has always been stoking fear to allow him to stay in charge, which led to his corruption in other ways. Of course, I don't know if it's a chicken or the egg thing. I don't know if he was corrupt all the time and the corruption led to his stoking of fear, or if he stoked fear which caused the corruption in other ways. Chicken or egg? I don't know which came first. What I do know is that he's a horrible person, and he's not somebody that can be trusted at all. But the problem is, again, the reason he's able to retain power is because he makes the boogeyman out of the Palestinians by making everybody think that everybody who's in Gaza, everybody who is a Palestinian must be a member of Hamas or could potentially be a member of Hamas, and as such they're all dangerous. And he's going to say, you need me to lead this country or else they will get you. And it's the same thing Hamas does. Hamas will be like, you need us to lead this area, otherwise Netanyahu's going to come get you. Meanwhile, through that stoked fear, it causes more anger, more violence, more deaths, which then justifies to a stupid electorate. I can't really call it an electorate on the Palestinian side because I can't remember the last time they had an election, maybe 2005. But in Israel, an electorate, who was in fear would be like, oh, well, we can't vote for anybody else. Why are we going to jump horses or switch horses midstream or whatever? But he's corrupt, he's evil, and he needs to go. But what also needs to go again is our media. Because as I say in my new intro, the corporate pigs feed at the trough and they won't bite the hand that feeds them. What do I mean by that? It's that, they're getting all this good news or whatever. Not good news, but juicy news coming from the Trump administration, coming from Netanyahu, coming from everyone else. And they don't want to see themselves be kicked out of, in the American sense, in our, in the White House press briefings. They don't want to see themselves kicked out of, or having access removed to the administration. So they're not going to do things that are going to piss off the administration because they want to make sure that they have access, because they want to make sure that they can justify their existence. But if they're not using their access to report the horrible things that the administration is doing and everything and not screwing it up, then what good is the access in the first place? And maybe the same thing is true with the press coverage of Israel. Maybe people here, the news media over here is like, well, we don't want to lose access to Netanyahu, so we're not going to pay attention to what's going on with his corruption trial. We're only going to cover everything else. What do you think? I mean, That's why we need new, better, non-corruptible or uncorrupted folks in the media who will do their jobs and who will report on issues. Because like it or not, I mean, Donald Trump ran on the whole thing of, I don't want any more foreign wars. I don't want any, I'm going to be a peaceful president. Of course, Darrell Issa today or yesterday or whatever said that everybody should write in and say that Donald Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. What? The guy who said that he would stop the invasion of Ukraine on day one. He doesn't call it the invasion of Ukraine, but I will. Because that's what it was. He said he'll stop it on day one. He said no new wars are going to take place. He's not going to involve us in foreign entanglements when it comes to war. And now, not only are Russia and Ukraine still at war, not only has the Israel-Gaza issue not been rectified, and Hamas and Israel still fighting each other, now Israel's fighting Iran too. Even though Donald Trump said, no, don't do it, please don't do it, it's going to make me look bad. Well, we have a weak, corrupt president who can't even convince other world leaders to do anything that he wants to do. He's supposed to be the most powerful leader in the world, and yet, here we go.